Week one is here underway with just one game remaining, the game we care about, Jets fans. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Finally here, right? Christmas Day for Jets fans. You know, we always say waking up on Sunday morning, week one NFL season is like Christmas, a kid on Christmas, but we had to wait an extra day. But it's here now, mere hours away from the Jets kicking off in San Francisco. I'm sure that most of you, maybe all of you, like me, watched a ton of football yesterday in week one. And I'll tell you what, it put things in perspective a little bit. And it made me temper my expectations a little more. If you watched me and Dylan Terman the other night, we did our week one predictions. I said the Jets would lose this game and it'd be close. And then I kind of talked live on the air, talked myself out of it. I said, you know what? This Jets defense, they can hold Brock Purdy in check, and Aaron Rodgers can do enough to get him in the end zone a few times. Jets 21-17. That was my prediction as we closed out. I watched these games yesterday, and all I'll say is no one knows what to expect. I mean, I know that's usually the case, but there was so much bad football yesterday that it really just made me take a step back and say, you know, let's be realistic here. Aaron Rodgers didn't play this preseason. Yeah, he had a couple joint practices. I get that. But didn't play at all last year. Didn't play preseason last year. A couple snaps against the Giants. Didn't play preseason this year. And we're seeing a ton of quarterbacks yesterday just so sloppy, throwing the ball all over the place. Wild Wave, how we doing, man? I'm sure you're pumped up like everybody else is today for this game to get underway. But yeah, I kind of looked at that and thought, am I getting too high on this team too early? Because again, I don't know how realistic it is to expect Aaron Rodgers, even as great as he is, as as much as he's accomplished in his career. How realistic is it for him to step on the field week one and just bang off and running? Doing well, Wild Wave. Obviously a game tonight, so where everybody's kind of wringing their hands. Just I am staring at the clock, just when kickoff. Let's go. But yeah, once kickoff gets here, the again some of the performances yesterday, and there were some good ones. I saw Derek Carr lit it up. Dallas scored some points against Cleveland. Deshaun Watson. I tweeted about that. I don't talk a lot about other teams on my Twitter feed because I generally am not that interested in other teams. But man, imagine being Cleveland right now. Imagine having a quarterback who is playing like that and carries a $200 million cap hit if you were to try to cut him. Okay, we now can't afford to pay anyone else on the roster. Everyone's got to go. Let's see. Yeah, as Wild Wave says, we're playing. They're playing a team that's coming off of a Super Bowl appearance. They're a great team. They're loaded. No Hassan Reddick still. We'll touch on that in a minute. But I'm not. It's not so much backtracking from saying the Jets would win as much as it's me just looking at the league as a whole. And listen, Brock Purdy might be as bad. My point is you don't know who's going to show up. It really is. I mean, I think the whole, and we've talked about how preseason has changed, and it used to be you'd see the starters for a quarter, or maybe see them for a series and then a quarter the following week and a half the next week, maybe a couple snaps of the second half, and then that was it. But there was some ramp up. Now it's just nothing, like, practice, nothing, game. And expecting guys to be firing on all cylinders. I don't know how realistic that is, but there is the part where Aaron Rodgers, you can say that a lot of these quarterbacks who struggled yesterday, maybe they're veterans in a new system, maybe they're rookies or guys with less experience, not just in their system, but just in the league as a whole. And, so a couple of other things it can be attributed to other than lack of reps. And if it is guys who are getting comfortable in a system, that shouldn't be an issue with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers knows this system inside and out. Aaron Rodgers, the thing he won't have is chemistry with his receivers in game situations. And that's where we're going to find out how well practice prepared them for this game. But again, I'm not here to say they won't play well. I'm just saying I'm less sure of how they'll play now than I was 24 hours ago after watching yesterday's games and the number of just bad throws and bad offenses, teams that couldn't move the ball. It was pretty surprising. I actually saw a number tweeted out by PFF, I think it was, or one of the guys who does or used to work there, saying that there were like 33 touchdowns scored week one yesterday, and like 5 years ago, it was nearly double that. It was like 61. So from 61 touchdowns in week one 5 years ago to 33 yesterday, that's bizarre. And I think it just goes to show that I think it goes to show that this team's doing less and less prep. And San Francisco, keep this in mind. Well, who knows if San Fran wins the game, if this will have been a factor. But a lot of their guys have played. Not a ton, but Purdy had, I think, 35 dropbacks in the preseason. Debo played like 16, 20 reps. So not a ton, but they're doing a little something. Whereas the Jets guys were just in street clothes every week. So how will it impact them? The only team that I saw that I can recall, now, of course, it helps that it's Patrick Mahomes, but Andy Reid had Chiefs players suiting up and playing in the final preseason game. They may have played a half, like they played a lot of snaps. And Andy Reid clearly thought it was important to get his guys in game mode and game ready and play some live snaps, preseason or not. Marco says we need to win tonight. I would like them to win, but as I've said before, tonight isn't a be all. It's week one. I mean, and it's, as I said, your quarterback has no chemistry with the guys he's playing with, and you're playing a defending Super Bowl, well, not champion, but you're playing a team that's coming off a Super Bowl appearance. This is literally the toughest game on your schedule all year, and your QB has no experience with his guys. So I think that, again, they could win this game. If they don't, I'm far from melting down over it. They should win their next several in a row. They lose two or three out of the gate, and absolutely, like that can't happen. You have too much talent on this roster. That's another topic I've been going back and forth with on people on Twitter. Everyone said, with the Joe Douglas thing, and Joe Douglas's record is this. And I said this the other day. Anybody who's telling me this is Joe Douglas's record over 6 years, like that just tells me right away you're not serious. You're just not. If we're looking at year one, which was a roster he didn't build, and then counting year six as if it already happened, which it hasn't, like you're not. You just don't like the guy and you want him fired. You don't want to look at things like you don't want to look at reality, because reality was he didn't build the year one team, and this year hasn't happened yet. So 6 years to me isn't a real thing. You're not living in reality. Rich, how we doing, Rich? It's all about our coaching staff to get these guys to execute. My concern is always the slow starts, and there's a good point, and that's something I've brought up with Saleh in these debates about Saleh, Douglas. Like this team comes out flat a lot. It's a regular thing. And again, in the past. Now we'll see if that changes. If guys are a little more fired up, they've got Aaron Rodgers in the huddle. Who knows if even last year they got 4 plays before he was out. You don't think that that's going to have an effect on the huddle? I would imagine so. So, but you're not wrong, Rich, and that's been probably one of the biggest knocks on Saleh is they come out flat. They often look, I don't know, maybe unprepared is the best word. They consistently get outplayed early in games. Generally get outplayed throughout games. But even when they've had weeks where they're okay, games where they win, like they come out flat. And it almost takes waiting for the other team to settle down a little bit. Because most teams come out of the tunnel emotional high. You're about to kick off. Guys are yelling, screaming, ranting, raving, jumping around. And that carries over into the game and they play well. But eventually you settle down. Like you can't keep that energy the whole game. But the Jets never have that energy. It seems they play like that. But then eventually they sort of, again, they've won some football games. It's not as if this team is winless over the past few years. They just haven't won enough. But we'll see if they come out flat. We'll see if they come out disciplined. Is Robert Saleh, we're going to see a change of heart with him? Is he going to be more sort of in guys' faces if they're making mistakes, committing penalties? Like no more attaboys for penalties. Like actually tell a guy, to fix whatever he's doing wrong. We'll have to see about that. But as it stands now, so much sloppy football yesterday that I personally can't get to the point where I feel like I have any idea what's going to happen tonight. A 10-6 win or loss wouldn't shock me, and a 35-31 win or loss wouldn't shock me. Well, yeah, I'd be surprised if San Fran put up 30 plus on this Jets defense. That would shock me. Um, as far as Hassan Reddick, mentioned him a few minutes ago. Um, Zach Rosenblatt sent out a tweet a few minutes ago. I believe it was from him. Yeah, it was saying that and I've talked about how Reddick's fines, like how much has he been fined up to this point. I keep seeing different numbers from different, some of them, some sources less credible or more credible than others. But this is the first time in a little while I've seen somebody, um, along the lines of Zach Rosenblatt come out and say the fines are at 5 million now, and it's going to be around 800,000 a week from this point on. And I said the other day, some people are saying it's 2, some people are saying it's 5. If he's sitting at 5 and he's going to add another 800,000 today, he is in that territory I've talked about in recent weeks where he will get to a number where he's never going to get it back, and that's where he is now. If the fines are indeed mandatory, some people have implied that part of the fines can be forgiven by the Jets. Listen, talk to somebody who works in the league office with salary cap who can explain that to you. But all we've heard all this time is mandatory fines, not waiverable, has to be paid. No team doesn't have any say in it. Player doesn't have any say in it. And then we see a couple little trickles. The Josina Anderson, the tweet that sounded like it came from the agents saying, oh, it would really help if the Jets were willing to waive the portion of the fine that they can. So there might be some that they can waive. Maybe that can fix it. But if none of that can be waived, then he's going to start getting 800,000 a week in fines for each game he misses. He's not getting that back in his next deal. And people have said to me, hey, yeah, when he gets his next deal, he'll get a huge contract and he'll get it all back. No, he won't. Teams are going to pay him what he is worth. If let's hypothetically, Hassan Reddick comes in at the end of the season, or at the last possible moment to get his vested year to hit free agency. Hassan Reddick comes in, rides out the season, plays well, doesn't play at all, fake an injury, whatever he decides to do. When he becomes a free agent, teams that are bidding on him are going to pay him what they think he's worth. Let's say the Panthers want him, and they're looking at the numbers and they're the highest bidder, but they believe in their heart of hearts he's worth $21 million a year, and they say we'll give you $21 million a year, Hassan, and he signs that deal and he's got his new contract, and people say, there you go, Glenn. I told you he was going to get that money back, Glenn. He lost 8, 10, whatever, however many million in fines. He just got $21 million. He made it back. No, he's going to get that money anyway. Whatever a team is willing to pay him is what they're going to pay him when he becomes a free agent. The Panthers aren't going to sit down and go, well, we think he's worth 19, but then there's that 8 he lost in fines last year, so let's go ahead and give him 27 for that first year so he can have that money back. That would be getting the money back, but that ain't going to happen. These teams aren't charities. Would they do it if it was $1 million? Maybe. They might, fine, we'll bump you up $1 million. But 5, 6, 7, 8 million, could you just throw that in? And again, that's the number now over the next week or two. You talk about missing 8, 9, 10 weeks. Now you're into 10, 11, 12 million. You think a team is just out of the goodness of their heart going to say, man, we're bringing Reddick in. We were going to give him a $16 million deal. And then we remembered that money he lost with the Jets last year. So we gave him $25 million in year 1 so he can make it back. That's the only way you make that money back. Making what he's going to make in free agency is what he was going to make in free agency. Because, again, people, I think, lose sight of the fact, because, I've seen several people say it. Oh, once he's a free agent, he'll make it back. No, he'll make what he was going to make. No one's chipping in an extra enormous chunk of many millions of dollars to help Hassan Reddick feel better about the fact that he lost money with the Jets this year. I don't know how he keeps his agents around at this point, but look, listen, perhaps, and I said this in a tweet a few minutes ago, there was the Diana Rossini report that this is about, this is on principle and he's willing to die on his sword over this. And if he is, fine. Look, if you're that principled, I kind of respect that. If you're willing to say, I feel I've been disrespected by the Jets, which he obviously does. So in order to stand my ground, and the only thing I can do to make them suffer I'm going to stay home and I'm going to lose that money. And I know that, and I don't care because this is about what I believe is right and wrong. Okay. Fine. Like it's unfortunate for the Jets, but I'm not going to knock a guy for standing on his morals and being consistent. But if it's just about money, which is what it usually is with players, then then what are you doing? What's you're it doesn't make sense. And listen, there aren't many things you can get like the entire sports world to agree on in sports nowadays. Everyone's got to have a different perspective, hot take, and blah 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 blah. I don't think I've seen one credible person come out and say Hassan Reddick's doing the right thing by himself here. This is what he needs to do. This is what's best for him in his future. Good for Hassan. I've not seen one person say that. And I'm not saying nobody has. I full disclosure, I don't watch a ton of NFL media. I don't. I watch games. Read what people are saying, what beat writers and national. I read what they're saying on Twitter. But if they're saying it on First Take or any of these shows that I don't even get over here, but I do, if there's a topic of interest, like I watched the week 1 recap earlier. Yeah, that stuff I see, but I've not seen anyone say. So I've not seen a single person say this is a really good move by Hassan Reddick. So we'll see. We'll see where he ends up. Let's see. Why would the Jets waive the fines if Reddick? Um, yeah, that's what Wild Wave's asking, and they can't. Again, again, Josina Anderson implied in a tweet a week or two ago that they could. There was a portion of the fines that could be waived, and sometimes teams just do it in good faith. Like, hey, you're here. Let's try to create some good. There's a lot of bad blood now. Everything's just happened, but we want everyone to be happy and on the same page. We don't need that 2.5 million. We'll waive it, and you can have that back. Like that's they don't teams don't have to, but they often do. And I think that's why that point has been made several times this preseason with the Jets is that these are not waiverable. These are not team fines. The team has no control over it, and the league imposes these fines per the CBA. So that's the way of saying don't expect this to be like other situations where or don't expect this to be like past situations where teams waive fines. And yeah, and I don't disagree with you, Wild Wave, but I think the way the Jets are talking about Reddick, again, so effusive in their praise, and we love him. We can't wait for him to get here. We're going to be great. He's going to be great. Everyone's going to love him. We have so much respect for him. They've been so over the top with praising him that I think if there is $1 that they can waive, they will. If there's $1 million they can waive, they will. That's my guess. We'll find out in time. Maybe he never shows up and we don't find out. But if he does show up, I think that's what happens. Roger says the fines can't be waived. I get that, Roger. Like I said, I've seen that reported in a million places, but and you may have missed it a week or two ago. I forget exactly when. NFL insider Josina Anderson tweeted out, and I talked about this because it was almost written like the agent sent it. It was like a detailed plan on how the Jets can make things right with Hassan Reddick, and part of it was by by forgiving the waiverable portion of the fines. Whatever, it didn't say an amount, it didn't say why. The tweet just suggested that there is a portion of the fine that can be waived. Again, I don't know if that's true, but Josina Anderson, doesn't break a ton of stuff, but she doesn't generally just guess and throw stuff out there. So I would imagine there is something that is, but maybe it's just such a small amount that it's negligible one way or the other. So we'll see what happens. What the Jets decide to do there. I think it's not an easy decision. For the Jets, you kind of want to send the message that you're not going to get walked all over. But again, you do want to get off on the right foot. And what better way for the guy to walk in the door? You say, hey, man, the thing where we can help you out, like the one thing we can do by league rules, we're going to do that. We can knock 1 point whatever million off your fines. We're going to do that. Can't help you on the rest of the stuff. That's mandated by the league. We'd help you if we could, but where we can help you, we will. I think that's what the Jets would do if Anderson is correct, and that can be done. But we'll see what happens there. And speaking of seeing what happens where tonight in San Fran, not even gonna do a prediction, but I already put that out there, and I'll keep it Jets 21-17. But who the hell knows? But I think the more I think about it, and as I watched games yesterday, and I think we touched on the George Kittle thing. Who's going to cover him? Kittle worries me tonight. because we don't know if he's going to get to that, if he gets in that secondary I don't expect CJ Mosley to be able to run with him. You're not going to do that. Quincy Williams can run with him, but you're not going to have him cover it's not like he's going to be the whole game to have him man up on him. There will be times where guys like Chuck Clark or Tony Adams or Ashton Davis are going to be asked to cover George Kittle, and I feel like Kittle's a great player, so that might be something that San Francisco can exploit. Let's see. Just real quick in the chat, Roger says Jets can pay a fine or fine one signing bonus. And Wild Wave says, I don't mind a compromise, but not getting walked over. And that's kind of where I feel like I would like to see the Jets not get walked all over. And maybe if what they can forgive is such a small amount, it'll be like they're not. It'll be like, look, we are doing as much as we can. But getting back to tonight's game, Kittle worries me catching the ball over the middle and McCaffrey running the ball. I get that Kinlaw and Quinnen are there. But the guys behind them, not having Lecky Fotu, who was supposed to be such a big part of stopping the run, he obviously won't be there, and that's going to be a concern up the middle. Solomon Thomas, again, okay, but not great player. The one thing you can lean on or hope for a little bit is that San Francisco has some issues on the right side of the line. In that you have a rookie in Pooney, just have a couple of guys. You look at the numbers, didn't have the greatest success up front last year, so maybe you can exploit that a little bit. But still, if I'm the Niners, I just run the hell out of McCaffrey up the middle until the Jets show they can stop it, and if they can, that's great. But also up the middle, and this is going to be a theme throughout the year till the defense shows that they can slow it down. I worry about Kittle exploiting those matchups that I mentioned earlier. So that'll wrap this one up. Just wanted to come on game day, talk a little bit about not just tonight's game, but what the week one performances kind of made me reconsider a little bit. But whatever it is, I'll see you at the post game right here talking about whatever goes down, how it happens. Hope to see you there. Have a good one, Jets fans.